Hello and welcome to the If We Knew Then podcast. I'm Steven Sachs.
And I'm Lori Sachs. Today is a great day. And I think that yesterday was probably one of my favorite days in my life because there were so many firsts and so much hope just flourished into the world with all the new changes. And, Kamala Harris being elected as vice president. What a monumental moment that is for us
no matter
historically.
what your political beliefs are or who you voted for, it really is such a historic first and achievement.
And another historic first came from our Down syndrome community.
Chris Nikic, the first person with Down syndrome to complete a full Ironman, and he did it yesterday.
And it was amazing to watch.
It was great.
You
could watch it
I
live.
cried.
You could watch it live on the Ironman Triathlon Facebook page, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I think what got me the most is just seeing him and his strength. And one, knowing the significance is what he did yesterday just blew the roof off of things that we were told when Liam was born that our son could never do. Not would never do, but could. Like, don't even put it on your radar. Liam's got low tone. There were so many things that with Chris finishing, first he did the half Ironman, but then yesterday, not only competing, but completing the Ironman, changed so much for the expectations that we will allow ourselves to have of our children. He did it. He trained for a year. I'm watching him going, I'm not running an Ironman. There's no time in my life. I ran a marathon and that was it. Like, I was spent. There's no time that I could have or would have run an Ironman, though the possibility was never taken away from me. What I loved watching was just other people who finished behind him.
People that won't finish. You're pushing your body to the maximum. There's tons of people are not going to finish that race that started. And training that long with what is thought to be physical deficits. You've always been told that. In fact, he was born with a hole in his heart and had to have surgery. And that I had mentioned in the podcast episode that we had with them, that's a defective heart that's been corrected, a leaky heart that now is working world class.
And filling all of our hearts with hope, right?
Fantastic.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was a great day of celebration. It went kind of late into the night for him.
Mm-hmm. He did that. He trained for a year. His father created a system of 1%, just reminding little steps at a time. And I'm always telling Sophia, take baby steps. Just enjoy each step, celebrate each step, and be in each moment. But that's kind of at the heart of what I gathered of his program is 1%. Improve 1% every day. And that's something I can apply to my life.
And even with that accomplishment, he is just one person with Down syndrome that's making an impact. There's so many beautiful examples of what is thought to be overachievement for people with Down syndrome, but it's just achievement with the idea that you can do it. If you are told you can do it and believe in yourself, then it opens doors. You keep telling people that they can't and what they can't do, it becomes another obstacle.
Right. And so today we are filled with hope and possibility. And this episode is dedicated to new parents in hopes to give them some hope and possibility because I know I repeat myself. I'm like a broken record, but that was the one thing when Liam was born was there were no hopeful messages, no stories of possibility. And November is the month of giving thanks and gratitude. We are most thankful for this family and our journey together. So the first thing we want to say is congratulations. 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 I'm going to say it again. Congratulations. Right now, if you've received a diagnosis, it may be your child has already been born or you just received a diagnosis in pregnancy. The first thing is congratulations. I want you to hear it. I want that to soak in. Congratulations.
And celebrate.
Celebrate. Yes, I know that you are feeling, I was going to say you may be feeling a lot of emotions, but when you're pregnant, I know I felt a lot of emotions my entire pregnancies. So there's so much unknown that was just handed to you. Maybe you already have experience. Maybe it's not so unknown, but I know that our experience was we didn't know anything about Down syndrome. So there are a lot of emotions, and we see it. We see a lot of questions out there. We see a lot of hopelessness because that's what we're given, right?
And I can say from my side of it, I mean, it's very emotional and very taxing and stressful, and that initial diagnosis process, that you don't have to be the one that's pregnant to be emotional. It rocks your world.
I think it's so emotional because most of this journey is unknown. Some of us are very fortunate to have somebody in our life to guide us or that has experience or knowledge. But if you don't, a lot of the information you receive is negative, and a lot of it is incorrect. I'd say anything that has an emotion to it that comes from someone on the outside, it's just somebody's opinion.
There's definitely medical things,
yes, of course,
that are just straightforward, and you deal with that, and you can have that
but
with any child.
Look at Chris Nickett.
Totally.
He had a hole in his heart. That
Look what he's done. We did not go through that,
No.
and so I'm not going to say, hey, you just have a surgery. But there's things to concern yourself about, and there's things to deal with, medically, physical things. But what we're coming from is the social and stereotypical things that you hear, and how negative that can be and false.
And how they can impact our journey and our celebration. And starting off with pregnancy or, the first days after diagnosis when you don't really know, and you pull out your laptop and you start to Google Down syndrome, and you can get some great helpful information now because there's so many groups out there, but then you can come across some horrible, horrible things. So when you come across something that's horrible, don't even read it. Just turn it off and know that this is your journey, and congratulations, and celebrate, man, because your kid, just like if it's your first kid or your 12th kid, this kid is going to be amazing. There's a difference between every child that's born. So we just want the message of every life has its challenges. Every child is different, and so celebrate this one just like you did any other pregnancy if it's not your first child, and just like you had planned to all along if it is your first child. Celebrate it, because especially, when we talk about medical issues, the medical community has come up with so much. We've advanced so far that if you have a hole in your heart, one day in your life you can run an Ironman.
Or Liam was born at 30 weeks, 10 weeks premature. And we were pretty scared of that. And the doctors really were kind of, oh, no, we're okay.
We got this.
There were
We've
some
seen
issues.
smaller.
Yeah, we've seen smaller kids and kids born earlier. And so the advances medically have really come around. So we're talking about society. And we found out Liam's diagnosis 10 days after he was born. Some people will find out, probably a majority of people will find out prior to birth. And that makes me think of Melissa Kanock and her shower. It was such a beautiful to have her on the episode and
What
talk
episode
about.
was that?
12. That was episode 12, our second interview with her, and it actually focused on
Her baby shower.
It was really
like an awareness.
eye-opening, even for us,
Yeah.
two people that are advocates and positive thinkers and in this subject. And here's someone that really comes from such a beautiful place. She had information at her shower. She made it where, hey, I understand. There's going to be people that don't know things like she didn't know. And she just wanted everyone to be on the same page.
So isn't it better to, instead of taking the information and opinions from people who don't know, and instead giving them your information,
right,
and setting the tone? I thought that was brilliant, and I
she
wish I would have.
built a team between her family and friends. If here's the good information I'm getting from the Down syndrome community around her. That was the first thing she did in England, as she went out and contacted her local support groups and stuff and got information from them, and then just spread that information for people so that people weren't wondering
how to act,
what to say.
Also, what they knew. And,
Right.
for the most part, what people know is so small, and it usually is very.
And people
pessimistic.
for the most part want to come from a good place, or
Yeah.
they are coming from a good place. They
Yes.
want to say the right things. So tell them what to say. Say, this is the way we talk. This is the way I think. No limitations, right? And
These
that
are the words
sets
we
a
use.
tone.
These are the words we don't use. This is all the possibility that my child has.
And I think that would set a tone for you and for your family and friends, but it then translates to the child as the child
Absolutely.
is raised.
Yeah. And so if you get the information, the diagnosis beforehand, celebrate. You can plan your shower, and you can use that information to disseminate it against your community and your friends. So then you're creating it. You're making that change in your world and in your bubble. And another thing that you can do, because knowledge is power, when you find out, the earlier you find out, you can begin to create a support system of services that are going to help you with your child. They're going to help you build a strong foundation for your child. So the different services that can start pretty much right after they're born are, occupational therapy.
Probably PT first, right?
Physical therapy.
Physical therapy
later
first.
down the line, speech. But along with speech, you have, some developmental things that help with strengthening the mouth, like with nursing or feeding, or however you choose to feed your child. There's different things that you can use to strengthen those muscles in their mouth that are going to help down the line with speech, right? So you find out, you feel your emotions, you seek out information from healthy, supportive places that actually have the information. Go into different groups from our community that, the amount of supports that are out there now are
more than we've ever had. Think about the people that we're talking about with Down syndrome that are showing us what barriers can be broken and what can happen when you support someone and tell them they can do things. Even Chris is 21 years old. That was 20 years ago.
The most interesting part of that story and the episodes, we have 2 episodes with him and his parents. And the most interesting thing to me about that story was, when Chris was born, his father was just handed the word special.
Right.
That's it. And with that word came different connotations than the actual word. And it was weighted with so much. And Nick talks about...
Yeah, his dad talks about the daughter who was gifted.
Right. And
how
there's a whole conversation of the power of
that
those
trajectory
words.
For her life.
Right. But how he bought into this definition of special and how that dictated his behavior, opinion, just how he guided and the expectations he had.
And it really wasn't
Chris.
Until 3 years ago they changed that idea to include Chris as gifted as well, and it just turned everything around.
And it really did envelop the actual meaning of special, because like I said before, running an Ironman is pretty freaking special. So it did. When it comes down to the actual word, Chris is definitely a very gifted and special individual, which, the truth is we all have that potential in us. And it's about watering those seeds if that's going to see what comes out, right? What kind of foundation do we create?
So if you think of your child now, your infant child now has all these supports that are possible.
And examples.
And you are there to guide that child in a way that no other generation of people with Down syndrome have gone.
And you also have the supports, and you also have the examples. We go from what we know and what we're seeing and what we're shown, and then we make the decision to make those changes or see more or be more. And I loved what Kamala Harris said in her speech the other night about seeing yourself differently than other people see you, and to be willing to be what you are and change the picture.
That's suitable for us as parents and with children with Down syndrome as well.
It's completely applicable for making change. You're making a change, and that's what we're doing now in society. We're changing, and it's beautiful. So back to you new parents, congratulations, and seek that information that is healthy and supports you and shows you the positive examples without boundaries. And then you break some more boundaries. Just know this, the journey is completely yours, and you will have challenges just like you do with any child. Every child has challenges. And we've said this before, that we were handed a list with Liam. We weren't handed a list with Sophia. So all of those were surprises, but we can look at that list now. And I used to get so mad at that list because I saw it really as a limitation, but it was only because all I was being fed was limitations. All I was being told was can't. All I was being given was pity. But now, what I want to say to you is take that list and let it empower you. educate yourself. If there are medical issues, put your support system in place. Take care of yourself. Self-care, be hopeful, because science and medicine they're there for you now in a way they've never been. And we are overcoming these medical issues. And with that power, take this list that's given to you of knowns and use it to empower yourself. Seek out the supports that you need. Put a system in for when your child is born, and put a system in to support your child as they begin to develop. And I know we're being a little repetitive, but I want you to hear this message. I want you to hear the message of hope, and I want you to hear the message of possibility and celebration. So we receive the diagnosis, we have emotions, we seek out healthy, positive information, we put supports in place, and then you tell your family and create a lead that they can follow. And you might experience some negative reaction. And all I have to say about that is something that we talked about with our good friend, Nick Novicki, who is a little person, and he has been on the receiving end of living with a disability. And one thing that we learned from our conversation with him is try as much as you can to let it be water off a duck's back.
Yeah, he really sets an example of how to. He's a comedian, so he kind of laughs things off, and he learned quickly how to be a quick talker, and he could gain some advantage in his own life that way when he felt some adversity. It really showed how your attitude toward it all goes so far.
Right, and how we receive, because I'll admit again that I would be I took things so personally, and I let these words and conversations just beat me down for a little bit. And I remember when I made the decision, I'm just not going to be angry anymore. Remember we made that?
Yeah.
I remember walking into the school going, you know what? I'm tired of being angry.
Well, Nick said that too. He said you can't go around and just like whenever someone says something, you just go, oh, I'm going to be mad at that. I'm going to be mad at this.
Yeah.
Because it's only hurting you.
Right.
You can educate people in a positive way. So if you create that education system for others in a positive way, you're only putting out positivity, which is only going to reflect back to yourself and give you a positive feeling instead of anger or being the watchdog of waiting for something to be said.
Just waiting.
Yeah.
And it's true, because once I did shift my feelings about what people said, I know people are doing their best, and they're coming from a place of limited knowledge. And so the best I can do is change the perception. So if you receive negative comments or apologies or whatnot, I encourage you to take a deep breath and know that this is your journey, and you decide how you respond to it, and you decide what you create, and you will advocate for your child. And your child is a beautiful celebration whose life is filled with the same possibilities of every child. That's what we say. That's what we bring into, our lives and our days. And not everybody's going to agree with you. And that's okay.
Oh, even people in your community aren't, you're in the Down syndrome community aren't going to. You're going to talk to.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Everyone's doing it differently.
Everybody.
But I definitely see that a positive attitude and hope and encouragement and no limitations not only is good for your own psyche and your own emotions and well-being, but also for the well-being of your child. Is going to open doors. We are going to see, like I said, the greatest move toward achievements that we've ever seen through the Down syndrome community in this generation and the future generations, because of what's happening now, and it's happening exponentially. We talked about it with Chris's dad, Nick. Once Sir Edmund Hillary got to the top of Everest, it just became a thing that humans did. And for the longest, it was thought to be impossible. Breaking the sound barrier with Chuck Yeager. I mean, you can go on and on. Once you do it and you're the first, it opens the floodgates, and we need to ride that wave.
Yes, we need to ride that wave to change. So going on to the early years, because those are the years that, like with all children, the early years are some of the most important ones. Those are when your child is like a sponge. And what I feel like, and this might be completely wrong, but this has been my thought process since Liam was born. So when Sophia was born, I was told this certain years, like birth to 5, were the most absorbing years, like give the most input. And I felt like, well, if Liam has a cognitive delay, a developmental delay, then that means that the window of input is got to be larger. Like it's got to be a longer window, right?
It always made sense to me.
It does, because I'm not going to take just I'm not going to embrace the negative part of that. I'm going to allow myself to actually be present in that moment with that advice and say, that's a fact or a truth or something that's out there. Let me hear it. And if that's what is, then okay, how can I use that to my benefit? How can I use that to serve my purpose? And how I use that little bit of information is to say, I have a longer window to input into my son during those very precious years. They're more for me.
Chris Nikic again. Of course you can continue to learn things. He's a 21-year-old who just a year ago started training for an Ironman and completed a full Ironman. I mean, I'm blown away. I know it's been
No, it's
a
amazing.
day, but it's like
a day. No, that.
Oh, if I said Chris did a marathon, I'd be like, that's awesome. That's amazing.
Because you run a marathon, Stephen, and it hurt you.
Oh, it hurts. But he did do a marathon after he rode 114 miles. And he did that after he swam for 2.4 miles. Nonstop. 16 hours and
46 minutes?
6 minutes or something of cardio.
Jeez.
From someone told by medical professionals, low tone, heart issues, thyroid issues, all these things that you're thrown at. So know what's possible. Know that even what Chris did is just the beginning. It's just the start. This isn't the end of it.
No.
He's just opening the barn door, and we're about to fly out.
Yeah. And, what I was going to say is we were very fortunate that we had an early developmental specialist, Carolyn Benz Fernandez, which you listen to that episode, New Parents. And she has a whole list of different tools you can use for development and stages. And she has a great conversation because she's been out there in the community and she's seen changes and, just great advice. And she's a positive person who definitely was fundamental for supporting our belief system because she felt the same way.
Yeah, actually, episode 13, she lists tools, which are just household items or toys that you can use to work at home, with your child. It was blocks and books and a mirror and stacking cups,
right?
Singing, just reading out loud and having your child follow along is a great tool to have because as a parent, even if you feel like, man, I'm getting a lot of services, you could have a service a day.
Which we did.
Yeah, and people have multiple services a day. If you have 2 services a day, that's 2 hours in the day. And you've got all these other hours where you're going, okay, let's keep this going, right? So you can take that input.
One thing about her conversation that I did enjoy too was when she talked about just enjoying where you are, right? Try to stay present and celebrate everything that's right in front of you. One benefit that I found and experienced with Liam's milestone was actually enjoying them. Mm-hmm. Because you work for a long time. The number one rule is don't compare, but just be present and enjoy where you are. And that was one thing I think Carolyn taught us and that she reiterates in her interview is to just see it and feel it.
Celebrate each little step.
Because with Sophia, it was milestone. And we kind of just took it in stride. And I don't know if there was as much celebration there as, oh, look, she's walking. Oh, look, she's talking. Hey, she ate some soup today. And I'd get videos and you want to be there for that moment. But I don't know. It was like one milestone onto the next, one milestone onto the next. And with Liam, I think there was a real embracing of that journey and being able to witness it broken down and what each of us did to learn to walk. Because you get to see, whereas Sophia was she's what is it? Crawling, kneeling, standing, walking, right? But with Liam, you got to see everything it took to get to each milestone.
That's one note to tell all parents is that for us, and this could be true for a vast majority of people that have children with Down syndrome. For us, Liam's life and milestones have slowed down. It slows down. It's in almost like a slow motion sometimes. You really get to see it happen.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's going to happen. You just have to know it could happen later, but it's going to happen. Always know it's going to happen. Never stop short of that goal line because it's going to happen. All these milestones. But you use that to your advantage of that slow motion time. Really being able to get deep into things and enjoy each moment through it. And it's been a blessing where we've been able to truly enjoy something that you look back at is hyperspeed. You look back at a child's development and it just, where do the years go? I mean, what parent doesn't say that?
Right.
So use that to your advantage and use it to know that you have those moments to input. It may not fly by as fast and you can use that to your advantage.
Well, I think also it's just let it wash over you. Let it be present and enjoy it because I feel like we're so concerned, will our child, that we're pushing to this goal line, right? Well, now we know, yes, our child will. Yes, our child can and will. So you know that now. So look at this gift that you do not get it with a typical child. You don't because they are just boom, 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 boom. It's fast and relentless. But you do get to actually participate and witness it, and you can celebrate it instead of fearing that something isn't coming. Celebrate what has come and is there right before you because it's a gift. And that was one benefit that I experienced with Liam was really enjoying them and seeing them. With Sophia, it seemed like some of them got lost. Even the ones where she fell behind on because, different children have different challenges. But with Liam, it was like this slow breath of inhaling and exhaling and just working through repetition. And then just one day, without prompting, all of a sudden, he would be there and we would celebrate. And we would celebrate with him and we would celebrate him. And then, of course, we would, begin working on the next thing, but we would be there and celebrate. And I'm going to just say last night, Liam's 10. We have been working diligently on speech because speech with Liam does dictate what people think that his ability is. So Liam has a cognitive and a receptive, but his expressive is delayed. So we've been working and working and working. And then last night, at dinner, we have this box of dad jokes that I think that was a gift for you, that I bought you. It's a box of dad jokes, and it's like 100 cards. And
Liam's 10, by the way.
Yeah.
But parents will appreciate this when you're in a speech, that how changing things up can just really open your mind.
Right. So, but this is my also example of we're working on it, and we've seen... witnessing being able to first go from sign language to, just broken language to combinations, all the steps along the way we've enjoyed. And we're seeing just such a great progress in him. But last night, as a family, we sat down and we pulled out this box of dad jokes. And Liam wanted to tell jokes, right?
Yeah, he wanted to tell some jokes. So we pulled out a card and we took turns around the table.
Telling jokes.
2 dad jokes.
Everybody got to...
because there's a front and a back of the card.
They're really funny.
And to see Liam read, understand it, and then get to turn the card so he can read the punchline and to read it and to see that connection of understanding the joke.
Understanding how to tell a joke.
And how to tell the joke, yeah.
This was a moment.
It took some rounds.
Yeah, but it was a moment for me because what I loved, I think most was... Now, you and Sophia both reached in and took a pile so you wouldn't have to keep reaching in the box. But Liam took like 3 at a time, and he picked his 3. And just the way, everything that he's worked for in his lifetime came down to that moment where his occupational therapy and his hand strength could go in with his pincer grasp and take out a card, and then he would manipulate it so it was upright, and he'd separate the ones that he's going to save for later. And I watched him look through and decide which joke he would tell first, and then he would take that card and he'd look at it and he'd get himself ready. I watched him read it to himself before. So he'd be ready and he'd make sure, Dad, it's your turn. Mom, it's your turn. Sophia, it's your turn.
Turns. Sometimes there's a word he didn't know and he would try to say it and then,
At first he was offended because Sophia was trying to help him over her shoulder. He'd be like, I got it, because he wanted to show that. And then he got to the point where that ego went away and he would ask Sophia for help to read it.
Just for that word, right.
It was amazing. It was everything he's worked towards, and then just
physical, social, language,
comprehension, connection.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, and in that moment, it was there. And when I can't tell you the first time Sophia learned how to tell a joke,
right?
But I can tell you the moment that I watched it and I witnessed it, and that is one of the gifts. That is one of the gifts we get.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hamilton, when Aaron Burr says, I'm not standing still.
I'm laying in wait. Yeah, I'm laying in wait.
And his ability was just, there it was. And it was beautiful. And so I want to let you know, you get those moments. Those are your moments. But you have to choose. It is a choice of being there and being present. Because, the flip coin of that is, the frustration of when will they be able to do this, and comparing him to another child, or Sophia when she was 10 or whatever. But if you do that, you waste the gift of the reality that's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Which reminds me also, and I don't think I've mentioned this before, moms, your baby can breastfeed. We weren't really given hope
Big
in
lesson
the
for us.
NICU. It was a huge lesson, because as soon as Liam was born and we started to get these negative attitudes, I was like, nope, my son can do anything. I'm going to advocate. I'm taking down all boundaries. I'm not listening. Right from the go, I was just like a lion. And then he wasn't nursing, so I pumped. I'm like, I'm going to pump. I pumped for a year. And I said,
and we kind of gave up on the latch because he wasn't latching, so we kind of gave up on that.
But now go to a website of nursing, and you can find exercises to strengthen their mouth, and just like you do with a typical child, a typical baby. So
even though Liam was building his strength probably from the bottle,
right,
we still hadn't attempted.
Because also I didn't have that knowledge and insight and input and experience, but he's building that strength.
Right, and we hadn't attempted to make this happen again, and it was.
And let me tell you this, moms. Okay, breastfeeding is hard with a typical child. So if you have just resigned that you're not even going to do that, that's great. This is for moms who just like really, this is something that's important to you, and you feel like maybe.
And you're able to do it physically.
Right, and you're able to create that milk, and you feel like that you've lost something and you really want that connection. This is what I want to tell you, is that it is possible. So I wanted that connection as well. And I just felt, you know what? Okay, so if he can't nurse, I'm just going to pump so I can at least nourish my child.
And pumping is one thing. Pumping for a year is a whole nother ballgame. So
that's a job.
That's something that's
I think
may
it was
not
a
be
job
doable for some people
too, right? I think that was actually a job at one time.
Oh, no, sure.
Yeah, that actually was a job.
Yeah, but that may not be doable for some people. That's totally understandable as well. But there is the possibility.
Right. So no judgment. You do what's best for you and your child. And you take care of yourself, because there's a lot of stresses there. There's a lot of other responsibilities going on. So, we choose what our battles are. But if this is something that is important to you, it is possible. And I'm going to tell you what my experience was to let you know that it is possible. I went for a year and I pumped, and I was all ready to give up. I said, I'm going to pump for a year, and then I feel good. He's had milk for a year. And then something happened.
He hit his head on the table.
He had his head on a table somehow. I don't even know.
But what's important is
what
that
did you do?
cried.
How did he hit his head?
That's not important. What's important is that he cried, and he was looking for comfort, and you took him.
So I took him and I held him to comfort him, and he just
He
started
just went.
nursing.
He literally pulled your shirt down and
Yeah, started nursing. Just
and it was
it was
like
that.
amazing.
Oh my gosh, it was just his instinct. It was so. I don't have words for it, but the lesson for me was that I had said I would never give up on him, and I had given up on nursing. And Liam in that moment said, "I can. Don't give up on me." And I know sometimes I fall short, but we're not falling short. We're just being in that moment, and we're doing what we can. So you're always doing your best, and we have to accept that. But in that moment, I learned a great lesson that I had gone. I think I had just gotten in rote. I just was doing, and forgetting to be in that moment, forgetting to connecting, and forgot that was a goal, or that was something that was a possibility. And I learned in that moment, all things are possible, right? And they might not happen, but they're possible. So just keep that hope of possibility, and you will be surprised. You may be surprised in different ways, but things like that can only happen with the hope of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Change happens with the hope of possibility. And that moment happened maybe not with my hope of that particular possibility, but Liam knowing his possibility. And the situation presented himself, and he was able to connect. And as a mom, I'll be honest, I had judged myself, and I wondered if he had wanted that moment, or if I had just gotten so caught up in something and just forgot to connect and be with him. And if I had failed him in some way, and I had that feeling. And those feelings don't do anything. They don't help you. You don't control your feelings, but you control your response to them. And my answer to that feeling was, that was my feeling. So I'm going to move forward now with the knowledge. So moms, dads, don't beat yourself up. You are doing your best, and just you love your child, right? And that's really the most important thing.
Take me time. And dads, that goes for you too. Take time for yourself. Find people to talk to.
You don't have to be this rock. I think it's about, Stephen and I have gotten through this as a team. And this is, as a team, you need it. And you need to be able to have those conversations and, talk about the challenges or how you feel, or and really talk those through, because we're talking about our kids. We're talking about our family. We're talking about our bubble. And that digs deep. It's unlike anything else. And the most important thing that I think we've found as a tool is that we truly share the journey, and we are a team, and that's needed. And I respect and honor the fact that Stephen's feeling the same thing I am. He's going through the same experience as I am. I mean, his feelings are going to be different than what my feelings are. He's going to respond differently based upon every place that he's ever come from and the thoughts that he's had. But it's important for it to be a team, and for dads, for everything that I've said to the moms out there, dads, that's to you too. Take care of yourself, express yourself, communicate, what your needs are, your thoughts and your feelings, and be gentle and don't judge yourself. You're creating your bubble, and that bubble is people who support you and
Are positive.
Yeah. And, and that also goes to the pediatrician. Find a pediatrician.
Yeah, that thinks like you.
Yes.
That has an attitude like you of possibility.
And if it doesn't feel right, then just change your doctor, because there are doctors who feel differently.
Because they're always a great go-to.
Yeah.
And there's so many times that you can go to that person and talk and get advice, and also get just straightforward clinical answers.
Right. And, the great thing is, for our pediatrician, I know Liam had to get tubes in his ears, and any kind of surgery is so scary. But she did. I mean, it was, I don't want to say logical, but it was clinical. This is what it is. And she was able to connect with me and support me and understand the emotion that I was going through, because it was when Liam was fairly young. And so there's more emotion there than, if he's 10 or 12, it's not as scary because you have some time underneath your belt. So it's really important that your bubble supports you and your pediatrician supports you. And with that bubble in place, with that family, it's so much easier to face the world and people who maybe don't think like you or don't support what you think and feel, because you have that foundation and that home to come back to.
Yeah, she told us about the tubes and then said, well, this is something that typical kids have. This is something that's a common thing in children. Liam does not wear glasses, but we have a ophthalmologist that is straightforward with us and says, this is where he is now. Stephen, you wear glasses and contacts. I don't have very good vision. And so Liam could need glasses later on, but
so could Sophia.
But it would be probably because of my genes passed to them. It's not
Right.
something that has to do with Liam specifically and his Down syndrome. And it's just to think about that these are all common things that we'll go through. And sometimes you may feel like there's more on your plate.
And sometimes there may be more on your plate. But you have the power to ask questions. Always ask. Always ask. A good friend of mine told me that one time. Always ask. And so if you're sitting there and someone's throwing this information out at you and you don't understand even a term or why they're saying something a certain way, you have the power to ask. And I'm telling you, if you have a doctor that says something and then you ask and they don't want to answer your question, that's the first.
Or get frustrated about it.
Yeah, that's a sign that maybe you need somebody else, right? We have that power. That's our right. That's our choice.
So create that bubble of
Right.
like minds, and that's going to go far.
So new parents, this one's for you. And the IEPs and the schools and all of that stuff, that's going to come later. And we talk about that in different episodes, and we'll talk about it again. But just for now, enjoy every moment. If I knew then, I would have enjoyed it more instead of always striving. There's a difference between pushing and supporting. I was striving. I was striving to get to this place of, I guess, proving, because that's what I felt like I had to prove. There's something I had to prove. And instead of that, I would have enjoyed it more. And I wouldn't have paid mind to the small minds of prejudice that really have only the amount of impact that we allow them to have.
So love the heck out of that kid.
Yeah, love the heck out of that kid. Because your child can.
Oh, your child can ride a bike, graduate from school,
Go to college.
drive a car, get married, run an Ironman,
Yes.
raise a family,
Be the president.
live on their own, have a job, be productive, give back to you things you never thought someone could give back to you.
Anything that you're asking if your child can do, the answer is yes, if you believe it. Allow them to believe in themselves, to believe what they can do. It is a magical journey. Every child, having a child and just being in service to them and nurturing that life is a gift to be celebrated.
So congratulations. Please follow us on Twitter at If We Knew Then Pod, and you can drop us a line on our Facebook page at If We Knew Then Pod, or visit our website, ifweknewthen.com, to send us an email with questions and comments. And you can join our mailing list there and get alerts of future podcast episodes. All these links will be added to this episode's show notes. Thank you again, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode of If We Knew Then.